So here's your two problems that you needed to do. This is 5 times b is greater than or equal to 45. I'm going to divide both sides by 5 because that's the opposite of multiplying. 5 divided by 5 is 1, and so those cancel. And that's greater than or equal to 9. And I notice I did not divide by a negative, so I did not switch the signs. Number 6, however, I am going to divide by negative 6 on both sides because that's a negative. So the negative 6 divided by negative 6, that's 1, it cancels. This n is less than 24 divided by negative 6, which is negative 4. However, because I divided by a negative, and I almost forgot, look at that, the expert, almost forgetting. Because I divided by a negative, I need to make sure that I switch my inequality sign. And again, if you have any questions on these things, let me know in the comments, or ask me a question. You can send me a message, whatever you gotta do, right? I can help you out. The last thing we want to do here is do a problem in context. So let's read this and then create the inequality that represents it. A student pilot plans to spend 80 hours on flight training to earn a private license. The student has saved $6,000 for training. Create an inequality that the pilot can use to find the possible hourly rates are that the student can afford to pay for training, and then solve it. So we got to think about this situation. I have $6,000 saved up, which means I can't go over that amount. So I'm going to start writing some of those things down. I have $6,000, which I can't go over. So the spending on the training has to be smaller than $6,000. That right there tells me that I'm going to have a sign that looks like this, where the alligator is eating the 6,000, because it has to be smaller than 6,000. And then over here, I'm going to represent how much money this is going to cost. Well, if it's 80 hours and it's an hourly rate of R, that tells me that for every time R increases, it's going to increase the number of hours here. So what operation is happening on the left-hand side? That's going to be multiplication, right? 80 R. Because if it's $2 an hour, which it's not, but it might be. If it's $2 an hour, I can multiply that by 80 to find out my total cost. So 80 times the cost is going to tell me, 80 hours times the rate is going to tell me the total cost. And in this case, I just need to make it smaller than 6,000. So there's my inequality, right? This is the inequality that represents the possible hourly rates. Now let's solve that. And if I solve it for R, then I can know the possible hourly rates that I can afford. So 6,000 divided by 80 is 75. 80s cancel. So this is less than or equal to 75. So what that means is, in context of this question, that we can afford, or I can afford, or the student can afford, we can afford up to $75 per hour for training. Anything less than that means we have extra money. Anything more than that, we can't afford it. If it was exactly $75 and no taxes, then we would break even. And that's all I have for you today. So if you've got questions, again, leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching. We'll see you another time.